I feel like my biggest fears with the modern format are finally coming true. Look at the screen. The modern challenge on Sunday, November the 19th did not fire. And that's insane to me. In the years that I've been playing modern, I have never seen a challenge not fire. It just feels like modern is the most popular constructed format out there on the digital sphere. To me at least. And I mean, outside of Commander, it just feels like everyone wants to get a piece of the old bygone Splinter Twin format where everything needs to be turn 4 and all that stuff. But it's crazy to me that the play patterns in this format have been left to fester for so long that we've gotten here. And I will admit that right now, before your angry keyboard type and Twitter fingers get to the comment section of this YouTube video, I understand there are some caveats, and I'm going to touch base on that. I am not without any reason, but it still doesn't change the fact that in a format of modern where, especially if you go on Moto, 1,000 plus, hundreds of players are playing the format on a daily basis, every single hour of the day. It's crazy to me that a challenge does not fire, especially where in a format they added a second challenge on Saturday to like allow more players to access the format in a competitive environment. It's crazy to me that in a format that can just allow for so many players to be interested in it, that a challenge does not fire. And people are tired of these play patterns. People are sick and tired of playing a format that will not change, that has no changes to it. And Wizards of the Coast wants to leave behind. Just like another format that they had to work to revive. I mean, the modern metagame is taken over by Rakdos Scam. This is the 30-day metagame, 20%, almost 21%, almost 3 times as much as Cascade Beanstalk. If you look at the 90-day, it's actually even more funny because you have Rakdos Scam and Rakdos Midrange. That's the same deck. Let's be honest, Rakdos Scam is the better version of midrange that takes some elements from midrange. This is still at like 21%, being 3 times more than Crashing Footfalls, 5-color Omnath, Yawgmoth, blah, blah, blah on the 90-day midrange. Rakdos Scam is everywhere. It is a frustrating deck to play against. It has a pretty good matchup against many decks in the format, and a lot of people will quote the fact that it only has just above a 50%. It's, I believe, at 51%, 52% win rate in general. But have you ever had fun playing against Scam constantly? When you enter a competitive metagame and you're in the winner's metagame, have you ever had fun just getting turn 1 grief twice, losing your 2 best cards and having to deal with the 4-3 on board? No one does. And honestly, the only players that do are probably like Green Tron and honestly Amulet Titan, decks that can top deck their way out of a win. Heck, even the Cascade decks that can top deck their way through a win. Living End probably not, because you got cards like Douthie out there, but the Rhinos deck can just top deck into a Cascade card and they're fine. They got 4/4 and they can attack in. But the rest of the format struggles. It's hard to beat a deck like this, and it's not fun when you're having these repetitive play patterns that make you lose the onus that you have in the game. That's why Thoughtseeds isn't a fun card to play against, but we deal with it because it's fair. It's at 1 mana, but when you attach it to a 4/3 body that hits you twice, it's annoying. You lose all your cards. It's not fun to do that. You can't even play the game. But I guess fun is a very subjective thing as well. So I guess I will also acknowledge that as my first bit of being not completely unreasonable. But it's nice to see that at least in these challenges, the modern format was evolving. There actually are a lot of different decks out there. Notably, the Amulet decks actually managed to top 8 a lot. There was a lot of Amulet Titan in the winner's metagame of these challenges. Specifically, I mean, not only does, as I mentioned, the deck have a really good matchup against the Scam decks, in my opinion. It's just really hard to pick up because it's a different modality of thinking. It's not a very accessible deck where the knowledge translation of what you learn through this deck works in other decks, similar to decks like Tron or Mill or whatever. But the deck actually does really well, and it's probably due to a card like Spelunking. And you kind of, when Spelunking enters the battlefield, you draw, you may put another land card onto the battlefield. You can draw a card. If it's a cave, you gain 4 life, and then lands you control enter the battlefield untapped. So you get some fun stuff where it's like a pseudo amulet. Like it's not exactly an amulet, and it's kind of like the cost of an amulet and Explore put together. So it's really cool. You're attaching a lot of things like this into a deck, breathing new life into it. A lot of people want to play it. And if it has a good matchup against Scam, then why the heck not? So surprising, Friday, Saturday, both of the challenges, it's good to see that there actually is a fair amount of diversity when it comes to this challenge around, especially with the new set releasing. So we're going to be able to mess with some of the new cards. But My fear is, as I said in this video, the problem with the modern format has gone too far. As I mentioned in this video, with the challenge, the modern challenge not firing. My fear is that we've gotten into the Pioneer metagame with Inverter. Remember what happened to Pioneer, where people stopped playing it, challenges stopped firing because the Inverter deck was everywhere. And this was an oppressive combo deck. The format had no way to counter it. In the modern format, where you actually have decks that do have a way to play against scam, that according to the numbers have positive win rates against scam. Why aren't people playing those decks? I mean, it could be a number of factors, including them just being Modern Horizons 2 decks being $1,500 decks and just being crazy expensive and out of the way for many players to even access. And with Modern Horizons 3 around the corner, a lot of people don't want to buy into these strategies that could potentially be banned out from underneath and completely change within a couple of months. It's hard to make an investment that you feel like has the length of old standard rotation. It's hard to make changes in a format that Wizards doesn't want to change itself. And we see this through the regular changes of, kind of June 1st, 2020, no changes to the Pioneer metagame. And then we have the Pioneer Challenge not firing shortly after that month. And then later, finally, after things change and things were going downhill, Pioneer, Inverter, Kethis, Walking Bullets to Underworld Breach, all banned from the Pioneer metagame. It took so long for Wizards to finally grasp what they needed to do, and Pioneer was worse off for a while. It took so long for it to make a comeback, and that's one of the things we're going to discuss later in this video, how Pioneer has made a comeback and how that likely has led to some of the decreased numbers of people not firing to the modern challenge, and that's rightfully so. We're going to again discuss that in a bit, but again, the Inverter pattern is here. We're meeting a lot of people are angry with the format. They don't want to play it. All of a sudden, a challenge doesn't fire in one of the most popular constructed formats in Magic the Gathering as a whole. What are we doing? Why are we doomed to repeat the sins of our past? Like this is a thing that your grandfather tells you about, like things like 100 years ago. Why is this happening 2 to 3 years from what we did in Pioneer? Has no one learned? Are we just stuck in fire design and Modern Horizons is just going to take over the format and still selling packs? So we just need to allow it. Like we just need to let Lord of the Rings wipe the definition of what modern is as a turn 4 format, and just like Splinter Twin and Pod and all these cards were banned for less. These decks were changed for a lot less. And I get it. That's a different philosophy. Back in Modern, that was years ago. I started playing Modern the fall after the Twin banning, and it just feels like a lifetime ago. What has happened in the Modern format, how decks have changed, how design and sets affecting the format, how the philosophy around all this has changed. It's crazy to me where we are in this Modern format and how unattentive Wizards is to this, and the focus shifting to EDH is, I guess, makes sense from a business perspective, but it really sucks for the constructed players. This isn't a plea from a competitive player looking for comp REL to make a big comeback, for the competitive Magic scene to revive itself. This is just a player hoping that one of the most popular formats in Magic, and a format that they love to play, just makes a comeback and is sought after as a reasonable format to support. I don't want to become what Legacy has become, where Legacy is a relatively okay and great format to interact with, and bar a couple of things. But a lot of people do like it. They have great, love for it. There's a lot of great interaction, things that you can stop. But still, the big thing that is still looming over everyone's head, and the thing that I should address, all right, and big thing is that the Pioneer Showcase Challenge with about 431 players was in a concurrent time slot, right? But the thing I will mention is that with 499 players on the Saturday number 3 challenge, a lot of these showcase players are going to be Pioneer players that regularly play, and then a lot of them are also going to be Modern players. But what happened to the rest of them required to fire for this? Not all of these people are going to be playing the Pioneer Showcase Challenge, and I will wholeheartedly admit that this is probably a big reason why I didn't fire, but that still doesn't make sense to me in terms of numbers. You're telling me all 499 of these players went over here? No, these players are tired of playing against scam. And I'm not saying like all these players want to continuously queue for every single challenge. But it blows my mind that we couldn't get enough people to fire a Modern challenge. That's insane. That doesn't make any sense to me. Statistically speaking, that's just an anomaly. And I get it. It could be an anomaly. but it's a pretty strange coincidence. And I guess it's worth mentioning also why people are excited for Pioneer. Well, it's because Cascade is breaking the format, or should I say Discover. The Discover mechanic is shaking up Pioneer, comboing with Eldritch Evolution, Glasspool Mimic. As early as turn 3, Pioneer is showing its Cascade combo now. That's right. There's a really sweet Pioneer Cascade combo where you like Cascade into Eldritch Evolution, sacrificing your own stuff, Glasspool Mimic. You got Leyline Binding in there. I didn't even realize that was a standard legal or Pioneer legal card. It blows my mind. But all these cards are actually insane and legal in the Pioneer format. You just keep going up and up and up. It's crazy what this format can do. It's really exciting to see stuff like this. We actually have really high power level stuff entering this format. I don't blame people for wanting to play it. This is really interesting. And of course, Teferi Time Raveler, to my knowledge, I believe is banned actually in this format. So you can't just play Teferi in your main board and coincidentally just beat these decks. I don't believe either Chalice of the Void is in here. And also no Karuga. He's a companion in this. This is a companion. This is a 5-0 list called Geo Combo or whatever with Karuga as the companion. This is such a cool list. So I don't blame people for wanting to play Pioneer. What I do blame is WOTC for making people not want to play Modern, which is completely different. I don't doubt that there are people that like Pioneer over Modern. I do doubt that there are enough people that would like to play Pioneer so much that they would rather not play a Modern challenge without any good reason. I doubt that. There's a pretty good reason. It's because of scam. Okay, let's be completely honest. Wizards of the Coast is dropping the ball. The Modern format is slowly dying. And although this is a very big coincidence, I can't help but think that the Modern format is just going down a slippery slope. And the format we love is just no longer here. The turn 4 format and the bring back Splinter Twin memes and all. Modern will never be the same as a rotating format with MH3 coming out later this year. And I guess it's just something for us to adapt to. I don't know how much more I can be mad at this. This is just the status quo now. We're kind of upgraded standard, upgraded Pioneer. You just have to find love in other formats. Highly recommending formats like Pauper as well, if you wanted that constructed itch at an affordable price. But it's unfortunate to see that Modern is not cared for. December 4th is going to be the next early time that we have any change to the Modern format. So hopefully by then we can get something happening. But for now, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts about what you think, if this means the Modern format is dying, if this is just a coincidence because the Pioneer Challenge was happening in parallel. But let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts below.